clowning y'all about quantity. I'm the beef like aficionado. Listen, Kendrick's focused on quality. Y'all have done quantity. You can't clown him on the quality when you never focused on it. Pick another angle.
ClowdyWorld, and we breaking down this J. Cole diss toward Kendrick Lamar and kind of just expressing, you know, our overall thoughts on it. So as we know, this man J. Cole just dropped a new diss and, you know, a 7-minute breakdown, just talking about a lot of different things, but also aiming some shots back at this man K. Dot and his overall perspective on this diss. Now, J. Cole's always struck me as the type of man who's very calm and takes his time with how he wants to address things. It's clear that even with this entire big three conversation of him, Drake, and Kendrick, he's kind of been okay with taking that backseat role. Not saying that he's been okay with being number 3, but more so saying that he's the type of artist that as long as he's in the conversation, he doesn't stress who's the 1 to 2. And I feel like that's kind of started to hurt his kind of credibility or how people look at him. Not saying that he's been less of a lyricist, but definitely saying that there's been a definite narrative change from him being one of the big dogs and him being more of this pseudo intellectual, or, you know, more in the Dr. Umar lane, more than someone taking it seriously as his career has shown.
Let's keep it a bean. Good Kid, Mad City Washes your best album in the last 4, and that's Forest Hill Drive washes it. And To Pimp a Butterfly is better than anything you've ever put out. I'm sorry.
Now, when talking about this new diss, many people were first saying that it was kind of mid, or they were just saying that the diss itself wasn't as aggressive, you know, back to back to back. And that is a real good point. I'm not going to say that it was bad, but I will say that in disses, people don't care about proportion, and people don't care about this or that. If I'm speaking on you and it's in a negative way at all, I'd rather someone go all in than throw pity patties, because when someone comes back at you, you can't say, oh, they were only throwing small jabs. When you poke a bear, you poke a bear. So even when I break down this lyric real quick, when we're seeing your first was a classic, your lat was tragic, your second put to sleep, but they gassed it. So we talking about this man. He said he averaging 1 hard verse like every 30 months or something. If he wasn't dissing, we wouldn't be discussing him. Now, that's cool. Them verses are not bad. J. Cole has always been a very lyrical wordsmith. He's been one since 2014 Forest Hill Drives days. If people don't know, 2014 Forest Hill Drives is still one of his most critically acclaimed and one of his most respected albums of all time. Many people don't even know that when it was coming out, it was actually coming out on the last week of the year, and it sold the most in the entire year out of all the albums in 1 week. So just to give you some context of how hyped and how well known and respected that his early categories and his early catalog was in his expression. Now, when breaking down everything further, we're seeing that this man Kendrick clearly had an issue with Drake and that man J. Cole clicking up. Now, I get it though, because it seems like ever since they did that new tour, it feels like people have been putting them in this whole different category where they're really elevating them. And, you know, Kendrick, it seems like he's always been about the, oh, I'm in my own lane stuff, but it seems like he's never going to be the type to fake adapt and just click up just to click up. And it's pretty crazy and pretty clear to see that as that goes on, other artists are kind of doing their own thing, especially when this whole beef going on with Future and Metro Boomin that ties back in with Drake, where he's not just being hit against the head against with one of his best lyrical adversaries in Kendrick Lamar, or even talking about J. Cole, but it's also that he's dealing with and beefing with Future and Metro over this associate and this random little bottle girl out there from Miami, man. And whether it's marketing or it's actual beef, it definitely has people that are in the industry on following him and being extra. Rick Ross, Nav, people like that, where they're standing their ground and kind of picking their sides. It feels like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and these scenarios that these artists and entertainers are wrapped up in are becoming more like storylines than actual just productions for more music to come to us. It feels like when things keep going on, you're starting to wonder what's the real point. I feel like Kendrick and Drake, even if they dislike each other, are never gonna really get to no violence. It seems like they've always had their own cliques and always had their own groups, and I feel like Kendrick and Drake stand for two different things in the culture, but to me are just as important. I feel like the numbers and the metrics and the accolades do have some impact in the culture, whether we like it or not. Getting widespread respect and acclaim for your content, your art, and your expression is and will always be leaps forward for rap history. But we can't act like lyricism and Pulitzers and things that Kendrick Lamar has done to change the culture with his actual words aren't as important either. I feel like there always going to be a balance of what the culture represents, because Drake will always be the trends, he'll always be what's popping, he'll always be the next thing up, will always be up to anybody else to debate. But to me, I feel like Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole really need to stop playing and just go all in, man. Really diss, really get serious, really just go all in and really talk they talk, man. Because to me, I feel like the fans are waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and these little 4 or 5 waiting, it's not gonna cut it no more. We're in an era of fast-paced things. Entire projects, entire movies, entire creative visions are coming out day to day, hour by hour, 30 minutes by 30 minutes. So I feel like they're not getting caught up in the, oh, this is getting boring, but it's more so like, when are you going to actually take the time, address something, make something of it? Because just dropping music isn't bad, but we're in an era where you got to put a spectacle to it, because real and appreciated artistry is starting to become a lost art. People want to see things that are engaging, fast-paced, things like that, and you can always rebel against it. There's nothing wrong with it. But think about the early days, man. Music, media, technology, it's always been bigger, slower, clunkier. To try to deny or try to go against the grain would be trying to ignore the future, to ignore what's going to always be a continuing advancement of what we do creatively. So it's just kind of thinking about that and thinking about what you all represent as creative vision as well. Because to me, I feel like when going into this, man, I really want to see what Drake is going to do, because it seems like the other two have responded now. The other two big three have responded, and it's time for, you know, this man to go crazy. We seeing who is it gonna be? The Jordan? Is it gonna be Tim Duncan? Is it gonna be Kobe, bro? We got 3 all battling head for head. It's gonna be a 21, you know, half court. You know what we doing? Who's gonna be the best, man? And I feel like this is really crazy, because when we first really got into Drake's development, most people can't say they ever thought he would get this far. To really come from being, you know, the R&B singer to being the leading rapper in, you know, the world, it's a pretty impressive feat, man. And even with Kendrick, looking at his past, coming up from LA, man, parents born in Chicago, that man had a real fire in his heart to create and put what he needed to be said on there. Then you know that boy J. Cole doing it for NC, North Carolina, man, really standing up for them people that came from the trenches. Everybody got their own perspective and thing that really pushes them and makes the old story for the GOAT process stamped. You know, it's really crazy to think about, man, because you never know who's going to be that next up and comer, but we know, at least for this era, these are the big 3, even if everyone else feels like they're the big me. But ClowdyWorld, let me know what y'all thinking, man. Let me know what y'all thoughts are about this and how y'all feel about this big 3 conversation. Let me know in the comments, who do you feel is the best big 3? Kendrick, J. Cole, or Drake? ClowdyWorld, and we gone.